Hi, we're currently here in the south of France, following on from our last video we did about the awning. On this particular video we're going to talk about bringing pets to the south of France or Spain or Italy, wherever you may be heading, where you've got high temperatures. You know, everybody likes to bring their dogs on holiday with them, but you need to consider a few things when planning your trip. And all we can do in this video is suggest the things that we take or we do with our dogs when we come away to the south of France. So I'm just going to run through a little bit of a list first of all of things to consider. So one of the things we didn't know the first time we came down to the south of France by the Mediterranean coast is about sandflies. This year we found out a little bit too late. We've managed to cover some things, but sandflies are a real problem, and they're at endemic levels down here, and they can cause some quite serious illnesses in dogs. So one of the things you want to consider doing is getting a collar which protects against sandflies. We use the Scalabur collar, and that's the ones that the vets down here in the south of France seem to recommend and prescribe. They're just a little collar that you wear around their neck. You need to put it on about 5 days, a minimum of 5 days, before you come down to the south of France to allow it to come up to full effect. There's no guarantee with this that it will protect your dog fully, but it will eliminate some of the risks. Speaking to the vets down here in the south of France, they recommend double protection, and what they mean by double protection is having a vaccine against a disease which is called leishmaniasis, which is the disease that the sandflies can pass on to your dogs. You need to have this done at least 4 weeks before you come over to the south, and you also want to make sure, don't book it in to have it done at the same time you have your rabies jab or your rabies booster. You want to leave at least a month after or before having the rabies, and that's just something to consider when you're planning your trip. So we've got the Scalabur collars. Unfortunately we were too late to be able to have the vaccine this year, but we will be having that when we come back on our next visit. So that's something to really consider and discuss with your vets. First aid kits for your pets. In a moment we'll take you down and show you the first aid kit that we've got for our pets, that we've put together in conversations with our vet as the things that we should have in there, and he's prescribed some medications for us as well. Means of keeping your dog cool. It really does get hot down here in the summer, and sometimes very high humidity as well, and especially if you've got a long coated dog, they really do suffer with the heat quite quickly, even on quite short walks. So think about what are you going to do to cool your dog down. If he gets too hot, how are you going to cool him down? And it's also worth googling the signs and symptoms of heat stroke in dogs, and what you can do to prevent it, and what actions you should take should your dog have heat stroke. We're fortunate, we've got air conditioning in our caravan, and we use it a lot down here with our dogs because they've got quite long coats. If you can't go to the expense, because they are expensive air conditioning units, consider other things like fans or other little water cooled air coolers to try and keep your dogs cool. You might want to consider getting a cool mat for them, or a cool coat, which helps keep them cool during the trips out. One of the things that we do as well, we take water with us and we wet their harnesses, so at least their harnesses are wet to help keep them cool, and carry plenty of water and a fold-in dog bowl so that you can give them a drink out and about if needed, because you will be surprised just how quick they can start overeating. Another thing that we've learned by coming down, especially in the early part of the year, sort of May, June time, is there's a lot of the grass seed around and a lot of burrs in the low-lying grass. It's a plant which has these little balls with little hooks all over it, and there's also these other little very sharp, I don't know what you'd call them, they got like a spiral on the top which are very, very sharp, and they can actually get embedded into the fur and work their way and get into the skin. Not so much the burrs but the actual grass seeds. So check your dogs every time they've been out, remove the burrs, check up under their armpits and around through their fur for any of the grass seeds. So always take a good quality brush with you to do this. Another thing we suggest you do as well is, it's up to you, but we found removing the carpets in the caravan. One, it gives a cool surface for the dogs to lay on, but also it's a lot easier to keep clean. Especially when we're down on the Mediterranean coast, there's a lot of dust. The dogs pick it up in their coats, they come in, everything gets covered in bits of grass and dust, and you can just whiz around with one of these little 18-volt portable vacuum cleaners just to keep on top of it. When you've got the carpets there, the bits tend to get buried into the carpet and a bit harder to keep clean. We also use an air purifier, which we've got just over there. We turn that up during the day and down at night. That's doing a number of things. It's got HEPA filters in it, so it's actually purifying the air in the caravan. It's removing any pollen, reducing the risk of any hay fever for ourselves or the dogs. But also, as I was mentioning earlier, when the dogs come in, it's quite dusty. They've got dust in their coats, they're running around the caravan, the dust goes in the air, and you'll be surprised just how much dust builds up on the surface, on the eye surfaces. So we found by having the air purifier and keeping the filters clean really does help quite substantially with keeping the general air quality in caravan clean. Another thing to consider as well is the temperature of the surface that your dogs are walking on. So whether the tarmac is hot, we have sort of slip-on shoes, and every now and again we'll slip a shoe off and put it down on the ground to see how hot it is, because in the height of the summer it can really burn your dog's feet, so you really do need to consider that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take you down to our first aid kit and show you some of the things that we've got in our first aid kit which we have found to be really, really useful on a regular basis, and also on a preventative basis should anything more serious happen to our vets, so our dogs while we're away. So we're just going to go down now. So you have to excuse the dogs, they're here beside us, one's asleep on the floor there. So this is a first aid kit that we carry. I'll just move it into the light there a bit more. So we carry various bandages, triangular bandages, different size, roll bandages, medium, eye pads, all different size ones. And it's always worth carrying a big one as well in case you need to wrap it around their stomachs. We also use these elasticated bandages, so if you need to put a dressing on their paw or the leg, you can wrap that, not their paw so much but the leg, you can wrap it around and it holds fast on the leg. They're really handy. Tick removal tools, get a lot of ticks down here. We do use preventatives before we come down here, and also with the Scalibur collars which help prevent against ticks, but it's always worth having tick removal tools. Eye washes to rinse their eyes if needed. Gets lots of grit or pollen can affect their eyes, and we recently had a situation where our dogs became allergic to something on one of the sites we were on, possibly one of the plants. We had to go and get veterinary treatment for them, and apart from steroid injections and tablets, one of the things we had to do was flush their eyes every time we went out. So again, worth having. With discussions from our own vets, one of the things we carry is pain relief for our dogs should they become injured. You know, I have heard of things where other dogs have been attacked It's rare, but it can happen, or they may run under something and cut themselves. So again, some pain relief to administer before you take them to the vet, because if it's a French bank holiday or a Sunday, the nearest vet might be some hours away and you've got to travel there. So at least it just makes the dogs comfortable until they can get and be seen by the vet. Some gloves for yourselves when you're handling dogs, especially if they've got a wound. This here Procholine, which we've got, this is a 60ml syringe. They come in 30s as well. It is available on Amazon. Really highly recommend this. It's something, if your dog's get an upset stomach, you can administer this and it will really help stop the diarrhea and that quite quickly, because the last thing you want is your dog becoming dehydrated. So that's something really good to have. If you've got 2 dogs or large dogs, I would suggest having the 60ml syringe, and you generally give off the top of my head, I think it was 5ml per day, twice a day. Low adherent dressings. If you've got a wound on your dog, you don't want to go putting a bandage around the wound, because that will then stick to the wound, and when you undo the bandage it's just going to open up the wound again. So low adherent dressings can go on and then put your bandage on. That just stops it sticking to the wound. Silver blanket we keep as well in case your dog's been injured. Again, not so much down here in the south, but in other parts of the country to help keep them warm. Sterile saline wipes to wipe the wound area. Pair of scissors, tough cut scissors, in case you need to trim any of the fur. Puriton. Again, when we were talking about hay fever or allergic reactions, Puriton is a must to carry. And again, we've got these off of our vet in the UK, and you could administer these to your dog to help relieve some of the symptoms. Again, discuss with your vet what ones they're prescribing you, or what ones you buy, for what dosage you should be giving your dogs. We're not qualified vets. We're just everyday people who enjoy taking our dogs on holiday with us. So we've discussed these. These were prescribed by our vets, and we've been advised what dosages to give them. And that's pretty much it, what we keep in our first aid kits, apart from this one. I'll spin it around. That there is if you've got a wound which won't stop bleeding, you can sprinkle that on the wound and it helps coagulate the wound to stop the flow of blood. So sprinkle some of that on, put your low adherent dressing on, and then apply your bandage and get your dog to the vets as soon as possible. Okay, that's our first aid kits. Do you carry a first aid kit with you? Is this something that you're now going to consider carrying? To us, it's something that you should carry for your dogs, the same as we carry one for ourselves. We carry a really comprehensive first aid kit for ourselves, and again, likewise we do for our dogs, because they are part of our family and you want to do everything you can for them. So, do you have a first aid kit? If you do, what have you got in your first aid kit that we haven't, that we might want to consider putting in our first aid kit? Or if you suggest things that other people might want to consider putting into their first aid kits. So anyway, I hope you found this useful. And it's all about bringing your dogs to the hot climates in the south of France, Italy, Spain, wherever. And this is just our personal experiences with them. Our boys are quite chilled out on holiday in the caravan, but they are long coated. They do suffer with the heat, so something to consider. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. Please provide some feedback to us, some comments on what you do or don't do when you take your dogs away. Please like and subscribe, really does help. Thank you very much.